What happened when Europe opened their doors to jihad? Look at Paris, look at London.
Places in London and other places that are so radicalized that the police are afraid for their own lives.
Hi guys, a topic today that has been going on for over 8 years, started by Donald Trump suggesting that there are parts of London that Brits can't go down. But when it comes to those precise locations, MPs like Paul Scully refuse to give out locations. Considering how dangerous they're constantly described, you'd think that it would be his duty to give out those locations so people could avoid them, if they're that dangerous.
What I was talking about is there are certain areas where there's a small minority of people who basically give rise to a wider prejudice for people who then choose not to go into a particular area.
Can you name a no-go area?
No.
If they're in London, I'd like to know if I've been there.
You're exactly mistaking what I'm saying. People are choosing, there might be because they're going into an area where there are young people and older people feel intimidated. It might be, Jewish people not wanting to go in one area. I'm saying...
Now, interestingly, Paul Scully has responded to this, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. But right now, I'm not getting what his point is he's suggesting there are areas you can't go. And what he's trying to say is, no, that's not what I mean. But when we're asking for precise locations that may save someone's life, according to Paul Scully, he's unwilling to give those details.
Areas around them.
But which area? Just
I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go
back
into that.
Place.
I'm not going back into that because actually you're trying to portray this into something that it's not.
I'm just asking what you're saying.
Where's
the no-go area?
If you genuinely think there's no prejudice in this country because that is driven by headlines based on a minority of people who are skewing people's views.
Now, interestingly, I can actually agree with that. I think the headlines are stoking this, but the government aren't doing anything to stop it.
That was the point I was trying to get across. I'm not talking about individual areas. I'm not going to get into that because that just takes us into a totally different direction.
But it's part and parcel of the same argument. We want to know where these locations are in order to prove what he's saying is true. And currently, I'm unaware of anywhere within London that you can't go or is a no-go area. I would be curious to know what these locations are. And again, it's for other people's safety. Surely we should know about these areas if they exist.
And it's really
unhelpful. There are no no-go areas.
It's really unhelpful on tackling prejudice. If you actually think, I tell you what, this country's fine, there's no prejudice, then we've got a real problem.
Obviously I don't think that, but just name the no-go area.
There'll be further context to this later because he doesn't criticise what Rishi Sunak says, and we'll listen to that later. It feels like someone who's helped stoke a situation where we've got splits and prejudices in the nation is now saying that it's the media's fault and not taking accountability for their own actions, whilst also stoking those flames by suggesting that there are areas in London you can't go into. I don't get what his point is.
When you heard some of the far-right politicians in America saying that there are no-go areas in London,
and this is exactly why I apologise for using the term, because what I didn't mean to use it for is in that basis.
And strangely enough, have a listen to this from Boris Johnson, who attacks Donald Trump's words.
Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind. If you think that's a sensible way to proceed, you can't ban people going to the United States in that way, or indeed to any country. And what he's doing is playing the game of the terrorists and those who seek to divide us. That is exactly the kind of reaction they hope to produce. And I have to say, when Donald Trump says that there are parts of London that are no-go areas, I think he's betraying a quite stupefying ignorance that makes him frankly unfit to hold the office of President of the United States. I would invite him to come and see the whole of London and take him round the city, except that I wouldn't want to expose Londoners to any unnecessary risk of meeting Donald Trump.
The twists and turns of Boris Johnson. Let's go back to Paul Scully and look how they try and turn this and attack Emily Thornberry for questioning this.
So that's you can go anywhere in London.
I feel free to do that.
Your shadow cabinet colleague Wes Streeting said a victory for Susan Hall and Conservatives would cause racists, white supremacists and Islamophobes all over the world to be rejoicing. Yeah. I mean, if that's not divisive, I don't know what is.
But we've got numerous connections with Susan Hall and groups that are racist. So is Wes Streeting stating facts, or is he causing further culture wars?
Yeah. What did you think when you heard that from Wes? I think was it a tweet that he put out?
I think he apologised for it, but
he did.
I'm not sure he'd apologised for it. I think he doubled down in at least 2 subsequent tweets.
Well, I think that it's unfortunate when the Conservatives select a candidate who likes what Enoch Powell has said.
And the tweets that she liked were frankly horrific. One referencing Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech, another suggesting it's never too late to get London back, and another one in August 2020, she liked an image that showed a deck of cards of suggested prime ministers, and one of them clearly being Powell. Yet this is the candidacy that the Tories think is acceptable for London. And it doesn't end there. Hall quote reposted a link to the far-right conspiracy theory website Gateway Pundit, which was making claims about mass fraud in favour of Joe Biden, stating, if this is correct, no wonder Trump is calling it out. She also managed to repost far-right activist Katie Hopkins, who at the time complained about Khan suggesting the nipple height mayor of Londonstone, and she added to that tweet, "Thank you, Katie." On a mayoral debate between Hall and Khan on LBC, Khan brought up these points to Hall.
Do you regret supporting Donald Trump, who is a racist, sexist and homophobe? Do you regret liking Enoch Powell? Do you regret liking Lee Anderson, the Islamophobe? Will you apologise unequivocally for having those sorts of views and promise to be a mayor if you win that unites communities rather than your record of dividing them?
I do not divide communities. I support all communities. I come from Harrow, where it's the most diverse borough in London, I'd say. It's incredible. And actually, if you look at all communities...
Are you going to apologise or not?
No, if you look at all communities...
I think that she is divisive, and I think that many of the things that she has said have been just irresponsible, given the nature of London and the importance of having a leader in London who pulls people together and doesn't deliberately try and divide them.
Right, and she was the Tories candidate for London Mayor, lost to Sadiq Khan.
May I also say, a member of those 6 appalling Facebook groups who were, pushing out racist stuff against Sadiq particularly.
Now, the issues with the Facebook groups were brought up by Caroline West, MP, and it was brought up to Rishi Sunak. I give warning, when you hear his response, you might very well be triggered, because the allegations are pretty serious.
Speaker, it's been revealed by the Observer newspaper that the Conservative candidate for the Mayor of London is actually a member of the 6 Facebook groups which was mentioned by the member for Edinburgh North. And they are full of Islamophobia, anti-Semitism and the most disgraceful incitement to damaging property. And the worst bit, for those of us who were in the House when our members of Parliament were taken, death threats to the current Mayor of London, Mr Khan. Will he close down these Facebooks which have been begun by Conservative members of staff, and will he investigate the role of the current candidate and her membership of those disgraceful racist Facebooks?
Now, with allegations as serious as that, you would hope that the Prime Minister would take it on board and go, that's very serious, I'll look into it immediately. But no, have a listen.
Mr Speaker, the election tomorrow will be fought on the substance of the issues that Londoners face, and the Labour record is crystal clear. House building in London has collapsed. Knife crime is rising. Mayoral taxes are up 70%, and drivers have been hit with ULEZ charges. And the Labour mayor just simply panders to unions and has decimated London's nighttime economy. That's his record. That's how he'll be judged. And people across London know that they will be safer with the Conservatives with lower taxes and better services.
Yet despite those allegations, despite the questioning, Paul Scully has somewhat doubled down on what he said. He's also, to give him some credit, attacked the newspapers. But he's not said anything about Susan Hall. And this idiot, don't know who he is, has actually tried to attack Wes Streeting, who's been pointing out Susan Hall's record, which is deeply concerning. Now, Paul Scully did actually say a specific location. He suggested Tower Hamlets was the issue, and that it was unsafe for people to go down there. But when it came to being on the BBC, he'd obviously backtracked. The question is, why? And Paul Scully is the only one that can really answer that. But are you really going to trust someone's word when they've backtracked so much on so many topics that are highly divisive and controversial, and yet he's so blazingly brought up in the news and somewhat rehashed once again on the BBC? To be clear, this is not to say that London is perfect. It has problems. There is an issue with crime. But to suggest that there are areas that you just cannot go down, I'm waiting to hear exactly where that is and to see that that is actually true. Tower Hamlets is definitely not one of them. Once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon YouTube supporters who keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to help this channel, please click the like and subscribe button. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.